Today is the release day. Hold up those books, you guys. Can we turn up the house lights? You guys can turn up. We want to see those books. Hold them high. Hold them high. And I'm going to get your picture. Hold on. I want to get a picture of this. Because you are here on the date that the book releases. So I want to get a picture of all of you holding your books. Hold on. All right. Hold them high. That is way cool. And you know what else is incredible about tonight? This is Cassandra's only U.S. signing event. So you are here for her only event. So before we get started, I want to introduce you to somebody special. Please give a warm welcome to Jace.
Hello, boys and girls. You guys excited or what? Wow. You didn't see any werewolves out there, did you? As long as they're not demons, we like werewolves. We can hang. We're going to watch the trailer tonight, and then we're going to have a party. And yes, pictures, and I already saw a few of you guys reading the books, so that's good. It feels special to be some of the first group to get it, you know. So, yeah, here's the trailer, and I'll see you all later. Pretty awesome, right? All right, so that's what's to come if you guys read the whole 400 and whatever pages. But we do have somebody that wants to come, maybe do a few questions and answers. But here's Cassandra Clare.
Calling him Jace, even though I know that's not actually his name. Well, okay, I can barely see all you guys, but thank you so much for coming out to see me for the release of City of Lost Souls. I'm short. This microphone has to point down. Okay, so, I'm the author of The Mortal Instruments, 6-book series. The 5th book just came out today. How many of you have actually read it? Hey, a surprising number. What did you think? Yeah? So it's super exciting for me to be here and share the release of the book with all of you. And I was going to start off. Where's my beautiful assistant, Vanya? Okay. I was going to start off by asking some trivia questions. We have problem prizes. We have some jewelry and some Shadowhunter t-shirts. Which Vanya will be digging out from under my dress.
Scandalous.
Scandal. All right, so if you got the answer, just stick your hand up. What did Clary write on the side of Valentine's ship to make it fall apart? You. Open. It wasn't actually. Anybody else? Okay. What? It wasn't open. Okay. Yes.
Who was that? Stand up if you answer.
Got it right.
Give them the correct answer again.
Oh, it was mene mene tekel upharsin. Mean it's the writing on the wall from the Bible. I know. I was impressed anybody got that. Name an item on the menu at Taki's, the restaurant they always go to. Okay.
Describe them so they know who you're choosing.
Standing up with arm in the air. What? Coconut pancake. Yes, that's true. Coconut pancake. What is Will and Jace's greatest fear? Okay. Ducks. Yes, it's ducks. What was it? Who is Magnus dating in the Infernal Devices? Green and white. Yeah. Yes. Are we out? Is that it? Yeah. All right. Oh, no, we have 2 more things. We do. Okay. This one is complicated. But it does relate to both the moral instruments and the infernal devices. Does anyone remember what Clary's manga novel that she's drawing is about? Does anybody remember what Clary's manga that she's drawing is about? And you seem to, there, black shirt, waving your hand. Yes. Yes. All right. Nobody ever gets this one. Can you remember the name of the restaurant where Simon meets Isabel in the beginning of City of Fallen Angels? All right, no Googling. All right. No. No one ever gets this one. Wait, but you already answered one. Oh, did you? Okay, so then answer this one. What? Say it again. Hot wings. No. What? No. Okay. Vazelka. And I think that actually is it. All right. Now, I have some questions for you, and then you are going to ask questions of me. But first,
The posters for...
this is my questions for them. I know that a lot of people came from far away. So if you came from far away, raise your hand. Holy crap. All right. Okay, if you took a plane to get here, keep your hand up. All right, you guys, where did you come from? Fort Worth, Texas. All right, you get prizes.
Where's Fort Worth?
All right, Fort Worth, keep your hands up. All right, did anybody else take a plane to get here? Over there? Okay, where'd you come from? Wow, all right, Los Angeles. Over there, keep your hands up. And was there someone else? Okay, where'd you guys come from? All right, Philadelphia. Keep your hands up. One for each of them. Yeah. Oh, was just one person? Okay. All right. I think we're going to have to go down to driving distances now. All right, if you drove more than 5 hours, put your hands up. All right. They'll give the posters to everybody with their hands up until they run out. I'm not hiding. There's a box falling on me.
Can we save one poster for the marionette lady?
Yes.
You want to mention her?
Oh, right. Yeah, did you get that the rest of it?
I just want to know if I can save one for her.
Yeah, hand it to me.
Okay.
All right, I also heard there was a Tessa marionette. Can I see it? All right. Mostly what I like to do at events like this is just kind of do a question and answer, have you guys ask me whatever you want about the books, about the movie, about writing, whatever. We do have prizes to give away to people who ask questions. So, and we have people with microphones to run around and get your questions. So it's just going to be a matter of putting your hands up and asking a question, and you'll get a little rune charm. We have Fearless and Heal and Speed and all sorts of good ones. So, okay, you? Yes.
So, the Simon and Izzy relationship is like one of my favorites in the series. Was that something planned from the beginning, or like how did you come up with that, and what do you think about it?
Simon and Isabel's relationship was planned from the beginning. That something would happen between them, because I love the arc of the sort of flipping the genders around a little bit and making it about, usually you've got your tortured boy who is, scarred and kind of pushes people away and is too tough to get into a relationship, and the shy girl who thinks she isn't good enough for him. So I thought I would flip it and do the shy boy who didn't think he was good enough for the beautiful girl who is super tough and uses, men and throws them away like Kleenex. And I love that about Izzy, but I thought it would be really fun to sort of write her arc as she first treats Simon terribly, and the first gets him turned into a rat, then she doesn't care. You pretty much, Jace says she'll walk all over your heart in high-heeled boots, and, you can't keep up with her, and Simon's like, I really can't. And, but then, as Simon changes into a vampire and Isabel starts to kind of open up to him, they sort of start to reach the same place and realize they're like much more like each other than they thought they were. And so for me, it's a really fun arc to write.
Thank you. I was wondering how much planning overall do you put into your books? Like the incest thing, did you have that planned out the entire did you have that planned out the entire time? And were you just or did you just be like, one morning did you just wake up and be like, that'd be an interesting plot twist?
It got to the end and was just like, I know, incest. It's a big seller. No, I'm usually pretty careful with planning. There are a lot of people who can sit down and just write and see where the story takes them, but I'm not one of those people. I need to have an outline and I need to know where I'm going. That was planned. It was one of the first things about the book that I planned. I was like, this is going to be a book about two people who fall in love and then find out that they're brother and sister. And this was because I had watched a documentary while I was in England, 2003. For New Year's. I had flown over there because my friend was having a New Year's Eve party, and I had not brought any money because I didn't have any, so I had neglected to think about ways to feed myself or where to stay. So I was living in his coal scuttle. And there was a television there, and there was a documentary on about, I don't know why there was a TV in the coal scuttle, but it's a long story. But there was a documentary on about two people who were both adopted, met, fell in love, got married, decided to have kids, and they went for genetic testing because, they didn't know, being adopted, they had no medical histories, and they wanted to know if they had any diseases that they might pass on to their children. And they came back, and the doctor was like, well, there's the good news, you don't have any diseases that you might pass on to your children, and there's the bad news, you're brother and sister. So I was like, this is fantastic. I mean, not so much for them, but it was really interesting. And I was like, wow, there's a lot of stories about forbidden love, and, but this is really forbidden. The stakes are really high. This is the kind of thing that when you're, it really attracts you when you want to tell a story with a lot of tension. So, yeah, that really was one of the first things that I was like, I want to tell a story about tattoos and incest. All right.
All the way in the back?
All the way in the back?
All the way in the back.
Okay.
I know I can't see that well.
Sure.
Hi. As a writer, do you find that some of your vision has been sort of left out of the finished product as you go about the publishing and editing process?
Do you mean like is some of the text left on the cutting room floor, sort of?
Like plot points or certain things that you wanted to put in, they just didn't make it, or you had to cut out just because of length issues?
Yeah, I mean, things do get cut, but more often than they get cut. I mean, it's interesting because people are often like, well, you should put up deleted scenes, and sometimes, and I do. There are deleted scenes from the books that are on my website that you can go and read. But so what happens much more often than actually just cutting out a whole scene is just rewriting it. So it's not so much, it's less like a film in which you actually hack out bits, but you basically go in and you rewrite that scene so it becomes something completely different, more than just, cutting out pieces. Okay, you? And make Vanya run up and down as much as humanly possible.
I think she's trying to torture me.
I just noticed there was a lot of manga and anime references, and like with Max reading Angel Sanctuary, I thought was hilarious. But do you have any favorite manga or anime?
I do. It's been a while since I've been reading it, but when I was writing City of Bones, I was living with an illustrator who was a huge manga and anime fan, and she eventually sort of like beat me into liking it. I didn't think I would. So what I remember really liking was Trigun, Fruits Basket, Vampire Knight, Bleach, Gravitation, Full Metal Alchemist. Who doesn't love Full Metal Alchemist? And Neon Genesis Evangelion was the first one I ever watched. So yeah, I do. I've been reading some manga that's set in the Victorian era, just because while I've been writing Clockwork Princess. So Emma and Godchild are both actually really good. I think Godchild's the same, Karayuki, the same person who did Angel Sanctuary, which is also about incest. All right, this side of the room. All right, whoever said that.
I was wondering, how hard was it to get published, since there's so many things?
I mean, it is difficult. I worked on, I was a journalist for years. I wanted to write fiction, but, being a fiction writer is a very difficult thing to get your work published and then to make money off it. So, I mean, I would say there are probably people who had an easier time than me and probably people who had a harder time. I worked as a writer for tabloid magazines when I lived in New York, and we would sit around all day, really bored, because nothing came in the way of news until late at night. So everybody else would, shop online, and I would write City of Bones. And so finally, I sold it, but I kept working right up till I think City of Glass was published, when I finally was like, okay, I can quit and try writing full time. The actual process of getting published getting an agent and getting a publisher to take the book and then having it put out, probably about 2 years. And that's pretty short time. Okay, you waving your arm down there. Yes.
So there's a lot of biblical references and angel lore. What inspired you to incorporate that into your books?
I've just always been really fascinated by mythological stuff, things about mythology, about angels. The Bible is literature. I mean, I was raised as a pretty much atheistic Jewish person, and people often write me and are like, you know,
Simon.
People are often like, well, you must be Catholic, or, you know, like, you're really into saints and angels. And I'm like, well, I mean, not really. I just find this stuff really, you know, fascinating and beautiful. And I find the Bible to be a beautiful, you know, piece of literature. And I'm fascinated by the story of the fall, by Paradise Lost, by Dante's Inferno. And I had read a lot of urban fantasy that dealt with folklore, you know, fairies and sort of, you know, stories that ordinary people tell. Mythology is stories about gods and angels and demons and whatnot. So I thought, why not do urban fantasy instead of folklore? You know, use mythology. You know, bring in the gods and the angels and the demons into our ordinary lives and see how it goes. Okay, in the pink. Oh no, you're both in pink. Okay, so you can both ask.
Are you going to be writing any other series after this?
Sorry?
Are you going to be writing any other series after this?
Ooh, yes, I am super booked up. Okay, so after, well, I'm finishing the Infront of Isis, so Clockwork Princess comes out next year, and then the last book of Mortal Instruments, City of Heavenly Fire, and then I'm starting a new series called The Dark Artifices, which takes place 5 years after the events of the Mortal Instruments and deals with the shadow hunters of the Los Angeles Institute, some of whom you met if you have read City of Lost Souls. And then I'm also co-writing a 5-book fantasy series called Magisterium with Holly Black. That's right, Holly is awesome. So I've got a lot of books coming up. And basically all my shadow hunter books are going to publish in the first half of every year, and then the Magisterium books are going to publish in the second half of every year.
This is more of a Infernal Devices question, but how did you come up with the idea about like Will hating ducks and all that?
Okay. How did I come up with the idea of Will hating ducks? It came from a true experience. I was with my friend Sarah Reese Brennan, who is also a young adult fantasy writer. She writes a fine series called The Demon's Lexicon, and I was actually researching for Clockwork Angel, so we were in London, we were in Hyde Park, and we were walking around, and we had gone to Harrods earlier that day and picked up food. We'd gotten, you know, duck pies. So we're eating our duck pies, walking along, and there's like a bunch of ducks kind of like following us in the river. And I was like, I think they just want some food, so I started throwing them pieces of pie. And Sarah, who is crazy most of the time anyway, started screaming, you can't feed them that. That'll make them cannibals. They're eating duck. They're duck cannibals. And I was like, they seem to like it. So, you know, just feed, you know. So I'm feeding the ducks the poultry pie, and they're all like, you know, converging to eat it. And I took her pie away and fed them her pie. And then we didn't have any pie left, so the ducks looked at each other, and they looked at us, and then they chased us. And we ran away. And I said to Sarah, never trust a duck. And so I wrote that into Clockwork Angel as a story that Will and Jem told about each other in Hyde Park messing around. I wanted to illustrate, well, I mean, really it was there just to be illustrative of the fact that they had a casual, you know, this great casual friendship, but they had a good time together, you know, torturing ducks in the park or whatever. And funnily enough, Sarah had actually written a scene referencing the same experience into her book, so I often get bewildered letters from people who are like, there's cannibal ducks in this other series? And I'm like, yeah, it's actually happened. You don't want to know about it. So, yeah, true story. All right. Yes, you're pointing at your friend. Your friend.
Okay, this is an Infront of Isis question. If you were in Tessa's shoes, would you choose Will or Jem?
Oh no, I'm not answering that. If I was in Tessa's shoes, I would run off with Magnus.
Have there been any new cast updates for the movie?
As Vanya knows, because I've been torturing her all day long, there are a bazillion cast updates, but I am unfortunately not allowed to talk about them. So I know that is like the least helpful answer in the world, but they have been auditioning for all of the parts, a ton of people. They're auditioning over 100 actors just for Magnus this week. So they did auditions for Alec and Simon already, also Izzy. Now they're doing Magnus. Then they're going to do Valentine and Jocelyn and the rest of them. So, I mean, there's a ton going on. There's a big casting meeting on Thursday. I had a Skype call with them on Friday, and we went through headshots. So it's all really exciting. There's lots of stuff happening, but unfortunately, if I said anything, they would send someone to kill me. But back me up.
Except now they're going to come and kill me.
Well, you can say that it's true.
Yes, it's true. She's been very busy.
I've been talking her ear off about it all day. All right, waving back and forth. Yes.
What advice do you have for a young author like myself?
Well, I would say that if you're really serious about it and being an author is what you want, you should consider it like a secondary job from the get-go. And you should think, you should set yourself a word count every day. I mean, in the same way that like people go to the gym and they lift a little bit more weight every day, start with something small. Start like 100 words a day. And write, just write. Doesn't matter what about. You know, short story, novel, different stories, it's okay. But the worst thing you can do is want to be a writer and not actually do the writing. But if you do a little bit every day, it doesn't seem so scary, the big blank page that you have to fill. So just think just 100 words, and at the end of the year, you'll have a couple of short stories or half of a novel. And if you hadn't written anything, you wouldn't have anything at all. And it teaches you also, it trains your brain to write every day and just to be used to that. You get into that space, and it's much easier. So, I mean, that is my advice. Sure. Okay. Do you really have questions, or you just want stuff?
Okay, I was out of all your published books so far, which one are you most proud of?
Oh boy, of the books I've published so far, which one am I the most proud of? Oh God, it's really hard to say. I love them for different things about them and hate them for different things about them. But Clockwork Prince just won the Children's Book Council Teen Book of the Year Award yesterday. And that was a big honor, so I'm pretty proud of that. So I'm going to say Clockwork Prince for the moment. Okay, you guys are neglected over there. So, yes, up in the front. Wait, with the white hair. Dale, you. Yes.
So I was just wondering, I know you came up with the idea of the Mortal Instruments series, and just what caused you to think of the idea of having a spin-off series? Was there anything that sparked your interest in that?
You mean like Infront of Isis specifically?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I liked about the idea, I mean, of the Mortal Instruments when I came up with it was coming up with the world and the magic system. I just felt like, you know, they'd been around for such a long time. They were all over the world. There were so many different stories you could tell in that universe. And I was in London. I was promoting City of Bones, the British publication. And I was walking over Blackfriars Bridge, which is a very important bridge for Tessa, if you remember Clockwork Angel. And I was sort of looking out. It was a misty day, and I was thinking about what writers usually think about, which is, you know, this bridge has been here for a long time, and it'll be here long after all of us are dead. dead. You know, we like to think about cheerful things like that. And I had a sudden mental image of a girl and a boy in like period costume, like Victorian outfits, sort of standing on the bridge and looking out over the water at night. And from one end of the bridge was coming this army of clockwork creatures they couldn't see. It was really creepy. And I didn't know why it had popped into my head particularly. But I went home and I wrote like some notes down about it. And then I just sort of mulled it over for a couple of months and thought, who is the boy? Who is the girl? Why are they there? You know, what are their names? What are their backgrounds? And so eventually the whole cast of sort of Infront of Isis grew and the story grew. And I went to my publisher and said, I'd like to write a prequel. And they were like, oh, like about Valentine and the Circle. And I was like, well, no, it's like 150 years previously. Sure, you're very excited about that. And they were like, oh, my God. But I was happily enough they got on board when they saw the book, and they were and they've been very supportive of it. So, and I'm excited about how much people love it. Okay. All the way in the back, blue shirt. Yeah.
Okay. So how did you first get your ideas for like the City of Bones, and like how did you continue like writing it and make it into a series?
I mean, I got the idea for City of Bones. I was in a tattoo shop with a friend of mine, and she was showing me the tattoos she had designed. She's actually the person who designs all the rune tattoos that like come with the charms and whatever, and are the basis for the designs on the fronts of the books. And she was showing me her designs that looked a little bit like that and explaining to me about the history of tattoos, that people had worn them for hundreds of years into battle, believing that they would make them extra strong, extra brave, extra impervious to harm. And so I started thinking about what would a race of people be like for whom this actually worked, for this magic worked for them. How would that work? How would you create a kind of magic that, that worked through tattoos? What kind of creature would you fight? What would you... what's your purpose? And so, it was like a world-building game that became the Shadow Hunters, and then, of course, there was the incest idea. And it just, grew into a story, and then I knew I wanted it to be a trilogy from the beginning, and then it became 6 books. Okay, so... okay, standing up, black shirt. Or, wait, you're wearing black jacket, white shirt. Bad eyesight.
Okay, I'm very excited to go home and read this book. I have to know, without spoiling anything, what do we have to look forward to for the next one?
Okay, wait, Vanya, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, I'm very excited to go home and read this book. I want to know what not spoilerific things you can give out that we're going to look forward to for the next one.
Okay, so you finished City of Lost Souls.
No, I said when I'm done.
Oh, when you're done. So you haven't finished it, but you still want to know what's going to happen in the next book. All right, I'll try to think of a way to phrase this that is non-spoilery. I mean, there is sort of a promise made at the end of City of Lost Souls that something is going to happen. And that thing is going to happen. There is going to be, and also I think that, City of Lost Souls is a book that sets up a very big war. And a very big war is coming that's going to involve the whole world of Shadowhunters, and it's going to have repercussions for them for many, many years into the future. And at least one of our main characters is going to die. So... Okay, you next.
Never stop.
Okay, her and then you.
Hello? If you weren't an author, what do you think you would be doing now?
If I wasn't an author, what would I be doing now? Crazy cat lady. I'm trying to think. I sometimes think, what if I wasn't an author, what would I be doing? Yeah, I'd probably be a vet or something. I really love animals. Actually, but the thing is, I would never make it through vet school. It's like even harder than med school, so forget that. I would like run a cat shelter. I would just collect cats. It'd be very sad. It's a good thing that that didn't happen. Okay, so over there, you guys.
Hi. I want to thank you for calling on me first. Second, I was wondering what made you want to expand the trilogy into a 6-book series?
When I was writing Mortal Instruments, I was approached by a graphic novel company that asked me if I'd like to do a spin-off series of Mortal Instruments as graphic novels. And I really love graphic novels. So I was excited about the idea, and I took a couple of months and I wrote out a really detailed script for the graphic novels, what was going to happen after the Mortal Instruments. It focused on Simon, but all the other characters were in it. And then the graphic novel deal fell through. Company went out of business. And so I was like, well, I have this whole script and this whole story, and I've left all these loose ends at the end of City of Glass specifically so that they could pick up in the graphic novel, and now that's never going to happen. So I could try to sell this to a different graphic novel company, or what I have here really is the outline for another 3 books. And I was like, I was just going to write them as books. I went to my publisher and was like, I have this, I gave them the graphic novel scripts and was like, this is the next trilogy. What do you think? And they were like, great, okay, we're just going to do it as 6 books. So that's how that happened. I can't pick. You pick.
I like this waving hand over here in the
I'm
middle.
feeling guilty now.
I was wondering, is there any incidents in your life that may have caused the storyline or any of the characters or anything like that?
Are there any incidents in my life that caused the storyline or the characters? That makes it sound like only a great trauma could produce this story. Like, what terrible thing happened to you that you write about is really terrible stuff. I think that, all writers draw on their personal experience and composite it to create, their stories. We also just use a whole lot of imagination and things that have never happened to us. Things we would like to happen to us, things we would not like to happen to us, things that we think are interesting, things we run across in stories, in film, in documentaries, in literature. Whatever you create, there is a sort of a hodgepodge of your own imagination. So there are definitely pieces of things in the books I can point to and go, that story comes from a specific incident in my life, like the duck thing. But then there are other things that are absolutely unrelated to me. Let's see. All right, all the way in the back, standing up, waving.
First of all, thanks for calling on me for putting my hand up my whole time. Well, in the City of Fallen Angels, the favorite thing was Simon and Jace's whole romance thing. I love Simon. You wouldn't ever see it coming. Is there going to be more of that at all?
So the question is, so in City of Fallen Angels, your favorite thing was Simon and Jace's bromance.
Yeah.
And you want to know if there'll be more of it.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have a bromance in City of Lost Souls, but that is for a very good reason. Jace is very busy having a bromance with somebody else. Jace is very fickle with his bromances. But in City of Heavenly Fire, Simon and Jace are back on the same team, and so they do have many a beautiful romantic moment. Okay. Yes.
What was the hardest part about writing the books in general?
What was the hardest part about writing
Yeah.
City of Bones, specifically? Oh, I'd never written a novel before, so it was my first novel ever. And teaching myself how to write a novel, the structure of a novel, was the hardest thing. I mean, not that every book since then has been easy, but every book since then has been easier, because when I sat down to write it, I didn't know I could. I thought, I want to write a novel. I've never written a novel. I mean, it's like saying, I want to build a house. It's a big undertaking. And so teaching myself how to write a novel was the most difficult thing.
Hi,
I just want to ask, I have a very big imagination, so I've always pictured myself in the book. I just want to know, if you yourself were a character in the book, how would you describe yourself?
Oh man, who would I be? You know, like you always want to think that you would be the hero. You'd be Percy Jackson or Harry Potter. Or I'd probably be like Edmund in Narnia. Like really, really like not one of those. I'm really lazy, and so I'd just be like, I'm just gonna be evil and sell my soul out for some snacks. I've always been a big Edmund supporter. Yeah. Yeah. There, wait, go back. Her. Yes.
Magnus Bane is hilarious. What was your inspiration for him?
Oh, I didn't hear.
Magnus Bane is like one of the funniest characters ever. What was your inspiration for him?
My friend John. Not John Green. People always ask me if it's John Green. It's not. I mean, I love John Green, but I wrote Magnus before I met John. And John is also hilarious, and often when I meet him drunk, but not much like Magnus. My other friend John, who used to go clubbing with me when I first lived in New York, had this magical ability we called the magical ability of glitter, because he would show up for all outings completely coated in glitter, and it wouldn't come off all night, and we couldn't figure out how he did it. I found out like years later, but it's really disgusting. And now you don't want to know. There's glue involved. So I was out with him. We were dancing. It was really actually very much like the beginning scene of City of Bones, which is kind of based on it. We were down at a place called The Bank, which no longer exists, but it was in New York, goth club. We were out dancing. John was covered in glitter. We left. It was late. He wanted something to drink. We went to a pizza joint so he could get a Coke. We were up at the front of the counter, and he ordered the drink, and the woman turned around to look at him, and she just dropped the drink. It splashed everywhere, and she said, "Never in my life have I seen such a shining man." And I was like, So I was like, I'm going to write a story about you, John. Somebody like you. He was also like 6'4", so that's why Magnus is so tall. So I was like, somebody like you, covered in glitter, all that. So, yeah, that was my inspiration for Magnus. Okay, Gail, over there. All the way at the end. Like a bucket brigade.
Hi there. Okay, now that you're a professional writer, which is very exciting to say, would you consider characters that are most like yourself or most not like yourself easiest to write? And part two, who's the hardest character to write?
Simon and Tessa are the most like me in personality and the things that they like, so they're very easy to write. Magnus is the most fun to write. He's always like, kind of like a party whenever he shows up. I think probably the hardest characters to write, certainly write their viewpoints and make them convincing, are villains. I mean, you need somebody, an opposing force, something for your heroes to strive against, but you don't want them to seem cartoony. You don't want that kind of villain who's like, I'm gonna, put a laser beam on the moon and blow up the Earth, even though that will also inconvenience me because I'm on the Earth, and it's where I keep my stuff. Because that's not really compelling. So nobody is the villain of their own story. All villains have a justification for the things that they do and a belief that they're in the right. So creating a villain who believes that they're right, really has the conviction, and has reasons that are even sympathetic for the bad things that they do is difficult, but yet very rewarding to do. I didn't think you should have to go far.
Okay, so probably earlier while you were asking questions, I can kind of see I think you're a cat lover. So is that kind of the reason why you brought Church and the Cat in the Infront of Isis and then made him come up in the Mortal Instruments series?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Church is an homage to my friend, to Holly Black and her husband Theo's cat, Fizzgig. They had this cat, oh God. Fizzgig was like the world's most angry cat. He was a blue Persian. And while I was writing City of Bones, my boyfriend and I were house sitting for Holly while she was away on a book tour. And so we slept in her room, and every night we would go to sleep, and every night we would wake up with the cat having leaped on us and scratching us viciously with his claws. And we tried locking him out and many other things, but it didn't work. So by the end of the week, when Holly and Theo came home, we were both covered in scars. And I was like, your cat is like the meanest cat in the world. And he's so angry all the time. And they were like, well, he thought that you were taking our places, he was trying to get back at you. And so Church was sort of an homage to Fizzgig, the angriest cat in the world. And when I wrote him, oddly, people seemed to really like him and get attached to him. People were always asking me, who's taking care of Church? Who's feeding him? I was like, I don't know. He's got one of those food dispenser things. I'm sure he's fine. And I love the idea that he's like an immortal cat who has like all of these magical secrets. He's been around for a long time, so that's why I brought him into the Infernal Devices. And I like the fact that he only likes Gem and bites everybody else, because Fizzgig's like that. He only likes Theo, he bites everybody else. All right, wow, there's a whole group of people shaking their books. I don't know which one to pick. So how many more of the things do we have to give away?
A lot.
Okay, all of those people. So, get together. I don't know if you have one question or many. They're helping us. Ah, got it.
Okay, one of the things that I love about your books is how diverse all your characters are, like ethnically, and how they're not all blonde or how they're not all brunette. How do you decide what your characters are going to look like and what their personalities are going to be?
I don't know, it's sort of a part of the character creation, as you're sort of sitting there and thinking, like, what does this character like? What are their motivations? What's their childhood? What are the things that formed them? And one of those things is you think, what is their ethnic background? How did that shape them? How does that make the person that they are? Making Gem half Chinese was, partly, I was writing in Victorian England, but I did not want to have an all-white cast, and I was trying to get out of that in some way that made sense. And making him half Chinese, what came from my reading about the period and reading about England's interactions with China and that there were actually a lot of intermarriages between English and Chinese, and there were a lot of Eurasian children, and what their experiences were like growing up in Victorian England, and how that would inform Gem's character. And so that interested me. Magnus is half Indonesian. That just came sort of I was trying to come up with Magnus's character. I'd taken a trip to the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, and there were paintings. There's a whole room of paintings of Dutch men who had. Indonesia used to be the Dutch East Indies, was owned by the Dutch, and it was paintings of Dutch men, their Indonesian wives, and their half Indonesian children, and there were all these long stories about what it was like to grow up like that, biracial in a time where that was extremely rare, and so that sort of fascinated me and became part of Magnus's background. So I think it's just, one of those things that factors into sort of character creation when you're thinking about it. And also, I think it is boring when everybody is blonde or everybody's brunette. You want to mix up, hopefully, and bring in more diversity and bring in different sexual orientations as well. I definitely knew from the outset that I wanted to have gay characters and lesbian characters as well. So, I've just been happy that they have been, embraced by my readers.
What did Magnus do to get banned from Peru?
I always think it's funnier if you don't know, but I decided there are these things in Peru called the Nazca lines. They're they're these huge sort of drawings in the ground You can see them actually if you're flying over them, but not if you're standing because they're so enormous. Of like animals, spiders, shapes. It's really fascinating. Nobody knows why they're there. Nobody knows like who put them there or what the meaning is supposed to be. But they are considered to have great magical powers, and they're a World Heritage Monument. And I decided that Magnus got drunk and threw up on the Nazca lines. Now is banned from Peru. All right, plaid shirt. And you can tell me when we must stop. How many more?
I think maybe just one or two more.
Okay.
And then we're going to take a short break.
Okay, we're 2 more questions and a short break. Okay, so
First off, I wanted to say that...
You're one of them, and
yes.
then we'll do one more.
First off, I wanted to say that Saturday was Free Comic Book Day, and they had like a preview for the Clockwork Angel graphic novel.
Did you
and
get one?
Yeah, I got it, and it's awesome. And secondly, I wanted to ask, so there are, of course, in all the books, there are like the funnier, lighter parts, and then there are the darker, more intimate parts. And I'm one of those people who I'm kind of sadistic with characters. I like seeing them like going through the struggle and being built as characters, whereas a lot of people just want to throw the book against the wall. And I was just wondering, which do you think, like whether you're writing or just in general, do you like the more fun parts or the darker parts that sort of develop the characters more?
I mean, I think that I think it would be really hard for me to choose between which ones I liked better. I think they have to exist in a balance. I think that, you know, even the darkest books that I've written, probably City of Lost Souls and Clockwork Prince, have funny parts, you know, because for me, if there isn't times when the characters, you know, are able to experience a little bit more lightness, to laugh at their own situation, you know, where there isn't anything funny happening, then I think that it becomes difficult as a writer to get through so much weighty emotional pain. Whereas at the same time, you know, I'm not writing, these are not comedies, you know, these are about people with serious problems, like ridiculously serious problems. And, you know, so I also really like the parts that are darker and more serious because I feel like it is in those parts that the characters reveal who they truly are. So both are fun to write, but just in very different ways. Okay, one last question. I like the light.
Hello. Is this on? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, my friend over here is convinced that I have 5 cats, and I'm a crazy cat lady. She's convinced they're trying to kill me. Because I'll wake up with them standing on my chest and whatnot. So
they are trying to kill you.
I'm agreeing with you on that. Yeah. But, sorry, losing my voice. What kind of books do you like to read as an author? And would you consider doing an adult novel?
Vanya,
I asked the same thing.
Vanya.
I asked the same thing.
You know, when people say adult, they don't necessarily mean adult. Vanya has a filthy mind.
But still, the possibilities.
I know. She was like, wouldn't you like to write something, you know, with more, you know, nudity? I was like, we'll see. What do I love to read? I love a ton of different stuff. I always blank out when people ask me my favorite books, but some of my favorite books I've read this past year are Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Lainey Taylor, a book called I Hunt Killers by Barry Lyga, which is awesome. It's like a teenage Dexter, but like, yeah, totally badass. I really love it. Libba Bray, I love her books. Going Bovine, John Green's Fault in Our Stars is right. There's a book called Girl of Fire and Thorns that not that many people have read, but it's really great. Okay, good. And another one of my absolute favorites is a book called Anna Dressed in Blood. I know, it's got a great title. And I was like, I hope this book is as awesome as its title, and it was. And I just got the sequel, Girl of Nightmares, and it's awesome. So those are some of my favorite books, personally. And wait, there was another second part to that question. What? Oh, adult novel. Well, I would write an adult novel if I, you know, had an idea for one that suddenly popped into my head. I don't have anything against adults personally. I am one. But actually, the book that I'm writing with Holly is the 5-book series follows a boy aging from 12 to 17, and that was really the thing that I kind of always wanted to do, the kind of coming of age. The Narnia Chronicles do it, Percy Jackson does it, Harry Potter does it, to take someone from childhood through to adulthood was really the project that I wanted to do next, and knew that I couldn't really do with Shadowhunters book, so I'm really excited to do that. And I think when that's done, I'll probably consider, what I do in an adult novel, and if I did, I think I would want to do high fantasy, probably something like Game of Thrones, Obviously, George and I have similar interests in incest and weird things happening to people. So anyway, thank you very much for all of your awesome questions. They're going to take me away now.